from Fort Smith, Arkansas. I was living there, working for iHeartMedia. It was end of November 2014, and I remember that because I had saved up so much vacation time. I was taking the whole month of December off. And I was on my way to this food drive that I had started with the stations, and we had all of our stations out there, and I was wrapping it up. I was the last broadcast. After that, I was on vacation. And I remember I was riding out there with our sales manager. I was in this big Ford truck, and it was so cold and rainy. And the whole ride, I'm keeping my hands in my pocket because I'm shaking. It had been 18 hours since I had a drink. So I'm just like, oh, my God, I can't wait to get there, to get out, to have the excuse of, it's cold and rainy. That's why I'm shaking tonight, Come bring some canned food down, it was bad. And the only way to get that to stop was to buy more. And I knew, man, I just got to make it through this 3-4 hour shift, whatever it was, and I get back to work or drop the stuff off, and then I could go on with my whole vacation. And while I was out there, my plan worked. I got out there, and the sales guy was out there, and he was this little Marine dude, and he wasn't stupid, He saw me go puke behind this trailer, and I come back, and he's like, you gonna be okay? You gonna make it through this? And I was like, yeah, man, yeah, it's just, I've been around so many people, collecting all this food. And he's like, you gonna make it through this, because that's all he cared about was are you gonna put out for my client, don't make us come back and have to do another free one. And so I was done. I went to the liquor store, did my thing, and I don't remember anything about that 30-day, that month-long vacation in December of 2014, except getting a package from my mother. This was the first time I'd never went home for Christmas. I was 36 years old. I had been home for Christmas every single year except this one. And I waited, and I got it on the 20th or something. I know not exactly sure of the day, but it was before Christmas. And I just set it in the corner. And on Christmas Eve, that's when my family would open presents, and I started opening it, and I was just bawling. And I couldn't figure out why. Drinking away all my emotions, I was left numb. But I knew I was hurting. I knew I was sad. I wasn't sure why, though. Was it because I'm drunk? Was it because I miss being there? I wasn't sure. But I opened it, and I'm not even sure if I called my mom. We weren't even talking. There was about a year we didn't talk. We would talk in a few months, though, because I go back to work in January, right? After a whole month off, I go back to work, and my coworker, we're outside smoking, and he's like, man, Corey, you look jaundiced. I was like, well, so do you, dude. I didn't even know what jaundice meant. I was like, you sure looks jaundiced, bro. And he's like, no, for real, man, you're jaundiced, And I was like, whatever. And I went and looked it up online. It's jaundice, and it was talking about liver failure. And I'm like, shit, I'm 36, man. That's not going to happen to me. I'm not even an alcoholic or nothing, I'll just drink a half gallon every day and a half or so, but that's all right. Yeah, everybody does that, man. Everybody. My mom and dad don't because they're stupid, but everybody else in the world does, though. So that's not me. And so I started getting this pain in my stomach. And I got to the point where I'd be moaning at my desk and just moaning. And the fact that I would have to record my show, and I was in 2 different markets. I was in Fort Smith and in Fayetteville doing afternoon drives, and I would record that show all the time. But then I had to start recording my Fort Smith show because I could only stand up for 10 minutes, and I had to lay down for 15. I could stand up for 10, then lay down for 15, and my coworker came over to my desk, and he picks up my phone, and we had the same doctor. And he's like, man, here, call the doctor. You got to make an appointment. I'm tired of hearing you moaning. And so I did, and I went and saw him, and he's like, and he was from some other country, I don't know, nothing against other countries, but he was like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I don't know, man. My coworker said I'm jaundiced. He was like, yeah, you are. I'll give you this pill. So he gave me this pill. It was like $250, $250. I remember it being expensive. I'm like, man, that's a lot of liquor I'm not going to be able to buy now, because that's how we think. And I took the pill. It didn't help. And he had also made me an appointment with a gastrologist on that Monday, because it was a Friday when I went and saw him. So I go see the gastrologist on Monday, and I go into the office, and I was hurting so bad. I asked him out at the front desk, I said, please, can I just go in the back of your office somewhere and stand in a closet? I was like, I can't sit out in your lobby. I was like, I'm hurting, and I'm yellow. And I was like, I just need to lean against the wall. And the lady's just looking at me like, yeah, okay, we could probably. And they did. They put me in this closet, just sitting. And I was just leaning against this closet, which seemed like for hours. I mean, I was in pain. It hurt so bad. And then the doctor comes and sees me. He draws my blood. He comes back right away, and he's like, all right, we got to get you to the hospital. We got you a room. I was like, I'm sorry, for do what? I was like, I'm here for my stomach hurting. He's like, well, your liver hasn't been working for, we're guessing, about 4 days. Your kidneys are shut down as well. And I'm like, but you just took a blood test, bro. Like, how do you know that? And he's like, oh, no, because this is your numbers, and we know. So we got you over there. So I went over there, and I remember getting in there, and I had this, like, nasty beard. I mean, I had been gone on vacation for a month in my own house. Probably not shower maybe once a week. I don't even know. But I'm sure it was looking like a hot mess. And they put me in this thing and put this stent in my chest. And I remember like, hey, you're going to numb me up, right? And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah. And they just stuck it right in my chest. I was like, that hurt. And they're like, yeah, well, we didn't have time to, numb you up and do all that. Like, we have to deal with this right now. Like, we have to give your liver steroids. I'm like, all right, cool. And the next day, I'm laying there, and I'm just like, man, when can I get out of here? And this doctor comes in. And you know how the doctors are, man. They don't like jokes sometimes. But this doctor came in, and he was real, like, no nonsense. And I had 3 doctors. I had a liver doctor, a kidney doctor, and I don't know what this guy was. But there was like 3 of them. And this guy comes in. He's like, all right, well, let's start with some few questions. I was like, all right, man, what's up? When can I get out of here? And he's like, no. I'm asking the questions. I was like, okay. He's like, first we'll ask, how long you been an alcoholic? I'm looking at him like, dude, you just called me a bad name. I'm sorry, but I am not an alcoholic. I just had a good month. That's what I said. I had a good month. I had the whole month off, man. I woke up. It was 6 o'clock. It was dark. AM, PM, who cares? Back to drinking. I didn't, I was that gone. And I told him I just had a good month. And he's like, you might have had a good month, but you're here because your liver's not functioning. Your kidneys aren't functioning. And I've seen pictures of your liver. You are an alcoholic. And I didn't like any of that. I didn't like anything he had to say. And I was in the hospital almost a month. And it sucked. And I even told him, I'm going to shave my beard. And you're not going to recognize me. And I'll just walk right out of here. And then I almost worked, too. The lady was like, oh, if you wouldn't have told me your plan, I don't think I would have known who you were. And I was like, oh, damn. I'm like, wow, that could have worked. But no, it was crazy, man. Like, I didn't pee for 3 or 4 days. And then the nurse had told me, she's like, if you pee like this much in this cup, you need to hit that button and let us know. And I'm like, okay. So I remember that day that I finally did. And it was like syrup, and I finally peed. And I'm like, hey, I peed that much. Can I go home? And she's like, what? Okay, that's good. We'll be there. Like, they didn't act like it was this big accomplishment like I thought it was, like, yeah. But no, that was a good sign that, my liver was coming back on and my kidneys as well. And I had to do dialysis every day. They'd wheel me down at 5 a.m. 36. I'm not supposed to be here. And there's older people there, and they're all looking at me. And, of course, they wouldn't let me ever control the TV. No, it was always some cooking show or, like, This Old House. Or it was always something, like nothing I wanted to watch. And they were like, what are you even doing in here? And I'm like, it's just an accident. My doctor gave me the wrong pill, which I told everybody. I told my work and everything that. It was bad. But back to the alcoholic thing, though, because it wasn't until years later that I realized that maybe I am different. Maybe I think different. I'm not the kind of person who likes to beat myself up. I don't look in the morning every morning and be like, well, I'm a piece of shit. Let's go to work and get it done. That doesn't work for me. Maybe I should think about it different. And just the fact that I clearly was in the hospital because I had a problem. Alcohol was what I reached for to numb that problem. And I reached for a lot of it. But just calling myself an alcoholic, and I know there's a person here today, and the person says, hey, I have to call myself that. And you can call yourself whatever you want. That's you. If you have to go to a meeting and be like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm an alcoholic, do it. If it works for you, do it. But for me, it's more powerful for me to walk into a meeting and say, hey, what's up? I'm Corey. I'm a person in recovery. That for me is moving forward. And I noticed, I don't know, maybe a year or 2 ago, about that word alcoholic and it being called something negative and how I frame it in my mind. So that's kind of my message, just how you frame it in your mind, man. If you want to wake up and say you suck, do whatever works for you. And you have to kind of maneuver your way through it. And I'm not saying go do it your way or go do it his way. I'm just saying it's different ways for everybody, and that's kind of what we do at 217 Recovery. But thanks for coming out.